Tony Kornheiser. It's my way of keeping you out of my financial records. Yeah, that's an inside joke, kids. That's inside.
It's
It
increasingly
speaks to
outside.
Pablo's new life.
Yeah, ever more outside, but I'm on it. I'm looking into things, Tony. I'm finding out about you.
Welcome
Every
to
day I
PTI.
find out.
Most of it is lies. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Wilbon couldn't break the tape on the week, so here to do his job for him is our great friend and burgeoning internet folk hero, Mr. Pablo Torre. Big cheers for Pablo, and we begin today with last night's Buffalo win over Miami, 31-21. The spread was 11.5, so Miami covered. The game stayed reasonably close all night. They were tied 21-21 in the fourth quarter. Embattled Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel said afterwards, quote, "I refuse to take moral victories," unquote. Pablo, what does this result say about both teams?
Well, I want to start with the Dolphins. This isn't the reason why Mike McDaniel should be on a seat that is increasing in temperature with every passing second. This game was one in which the Dolphins, of course, were not favored. It is actually a closer game than the score indicates, which is true. The reason the seat is hot is because he is 3-14 against teams with winning records. So it's the larger picture, Tony, that fits into a larger criticism. And for me, when it comes to the Bills, yeah, look, it's the Bills in the first 3 weeks of the season. They do this. They drop 30 points on your head. This is exactly what you expect out of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But McDaniel, to me, that's where the story is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, the interest in the game for me before the game started was, would Buffalo win by such a margin that the Dolphins were going to fire McDaniel? All right, so that was the intrigue. They did not fire him. I mean, the day is still going on, but the game was close. Nominally,
Yes.
The game was close. Here's where you and I will disagree. I never really thought that the Dolphins could win that game. And I go back to the first quarter when they took the opening kickoff and they went all the way down the field and they scored a touchdown. You went, wow. But then the next two times Buffalo got the ball, they went all the way down the field and they scored 2 touchdowns. So for me, I could check out at that point. You're 100% right that his record is 3-14 against teams with winning records, and that's not good. But if I'm going to fire anybody today, I'm going to fire the defensive coordinator at Miami. They've now given up 97 points in 3 games. Buffalo was okay, just okay. They didn't have to be good because Miami isn't very good. The 3-14 record we've referenced already.
Right.
The coach at Buffalo is now 16-2 against Miami. Buffalo is now 11-0 in their last 11 division games in Buffalo. I think Miami is cooked. And here's a statistic that is relevant to me. Since the year 2000, 107 teams in the NFL, 117 rather, in the NFL have started out 0-3. 1 has made the playoffs. So I don't think the Dolphins can make the playoffs. Buffalo, my feeling about Buffalo is that they are being hurt a little bit by the lack of quality of opposition early in the season. They don't have to extend themselves because they're not playing anybody really good at the moment. They had that Baltimore game. That was terrific. But after that, Pablo, Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Atlanta, Carolina. That feels like 7-0 to me without being tested.
No. I take that at face value. I do want to sort of walk back that criticism to the extent that they don't choose the schedule. It's not college football, as you know, Tony. So they're only doing what's in front of them. The thing, though, and all due respect to your cousin Marilyn, of course, in South Florida, when it comes to Mike McDaniel and all the news and information therein, the thing about it is, what if Tua didn't throw that pick? What if he didn't? You know, like, I want to criticize the micro as much as we acknowledge the macro. There are some things with McDaniel where it's like, hey, Tua does something, and of course it fits into the larger trend. But in this case, the process of how they lost, I mean, look, he doesn't want the moral victory.
Yes.
Here's my advice for Mike McDaniel. Take the moral victory. I don't know if you'll get a real one. I would say that that's probably the one you want to take because it's available to you. But Tony, we have 14 more NFL games on Sunday, among them the 2-0 Rams at the 2-0 Eagles, and the unbeaten Cardinals at the similarly unblemished Niners. So of those games on Sunday, which intrigues you the most?
Okay, I'm not sure that I would use the word intrigued by anything on Sunday. I am intrigued by Monday night. I am intrigued by Detroit and
Same.
Baltimore. I'm intrigued by that. The furthest I'm going to go on Sunday is I'm curious. And I do have a list of the games that I'm curious about. I am curious, for example, about Indianapolis at Tennessee. If Indianapolis wins this game, they're 3-0. And we may have to give Indianapolis and their new quarterback, Daniel Jones, semi-respect at that point. I am curious about Cincinnati at Minnesota, because the starting quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and J.J. McCarthy, are both out. And now you're down to Jake Browning and Carson Wentz. Can either of them keep their teams alive in a playoff chase? I am curious about Pittsburgh at New England. Is Pittsburgh's defense so awful that New England would actually be able to beat them? Because if that happens, Pittsburgh is out as a contender that we ever have to talk about. And I'm kind of, sort of curious about Dallas at Chicago, only because it would gall Wilbon so much if the Cowboys were to beat the Bears. The one that I'm serious about, though, and you might laugh at this, is Kansas City at the Giants. What if the Giants won that game? I don't think that's possible. I think the Giants will devolve into a quarterback mess. I think Russell Wilson won't be as good as he was last week. I think we'll see Jackson Dart. But if they were to win, Kansas City would be 0-3, and we would be writing their obituary. We would.
I'm trying to keep score at home as you go through your curiosities. I'm a man of curiosities. I got tri-curious, quad-curious. You are penta-curious by the end. You have many interests. I was hoping for tri-curious personally. I would say that we're going to play what's the word here. I am perversely tickled by the Bengals and the Vikings. And you got to some of it, but that's my lead story on a weekend that is, as you describe, short of Monday. It's some stuff. But in the poo-poo platter, there can be one of those just like pieces of chicken where you're like, is this edible? And then you're like, this kind of tastes good. And I think Jake Browning is that piece of chicken. Jake Browning, by the advanced numbers, he's not Joe Burrow. Everybody knows that, but the advanced numbers like him. And I know that.
But he had three picks last week.
I know.
Does that not matter to you?
I know. Well, it matters, but I said perversely tickled. I didn't say I am naming my son after Jake Browning. I said I'm perversely tickled by the setting of Jake Browning filling the shoes of Joe Burrow against, of course, Carson Wentz.
How about Denver and the Chargers? Would you be curious about that? Because we might be able to see if the Chargers are as good as we think they might be. We're not sure.
That's the question.
Right?
So speaking of the advanced metrics, no one has been more beloved by the metrics among the nerds than Justin Herbert. Are we seeing it?
Yeah.
Are we seeing the hype become real? That's a nice entree. A nicer entree, I'll admit.
Before I go to the next story, I just want to acknowledge that is the first time in all the years the show has been on television that the words poo-poo platter have been in it, so congratulations on that. Let's move to the continuing drama of Kawhi Leonard, Steve Ballmer, and the Clippers. On some podcast called Pablo Torre Finds Out, I've never heard of it, there has been reporting that indicates Steve Ballmer may have circumvented the salary cap with Kawhi Leonard and a company called Aspiration with ties to the Clippers. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver at first said he'd never heard of Aspiration, then he backtracked. He has said the NBA will investigate. Pablo, in what sort of a spot does this Ballmer investigation put Silver?
I believe this is the biggest test of Adam Silver's tenure as commissioner. And I say that knowing that there are other candidates, but he came in with Donald Sterling. That was, in retrospect, an easy call. Documentary evidence, a tape. In 3 days, they said, banned for life. This, poetically almost bookending that, Ballmer coming in because of that, Ballmer now being at the heart of a story, Tony, in which he poured in $118 million over 18 months, tracking alongside secret payments no one knew about to Kawhi Leonard that total $28 million in a no-show endorsement contract and $20 million more in a stock deal that he was signed to. We're talking about $48 million outside of the cap, paid by the richest owner in all of sports. And so the question for Adam Silver, to be blunt about this, is, do the rules matter? You're a steward of integrity. The inconsistency of commentary around what you knew, and in honor of Robert Redford this week, what did you know and when did you know it? That question applies to the commissioner in terms of how he himself has been presented, as well as the investigation, which has taken, for me,